They burned through 4 CEOs in 3 years. They went bankrupt and emerged from bankruptcy. The board tapped one of the guys who was on the senior team. His name was, so he said, okay, I'll do it, but I won't take the title of CEO. You can call me president and I'll earn the CEO title. And then I think the biggest mistake is they put no thought into what kind of culture they want to create. If we really loved our customers and it was only 60% full on the date that we're supposed to sail, if we really loved our customers, what would we do?
Welcome to the Swedish Wealth Institute Podcast. I am your host, Daniel Wood. Today's episode is a really cool episode if you are looking to grow as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, because I had the pleasure of interviewing Steve Farber, who has been working for 35 years helping build cultures that make people inspired and commit instead of complying. Steve has helped businesses that dominate not because they just search for growth, but because they earn the loyalty of their clients, of their teams. And Steve has always argued loyalty comes from a word that most people avoid, and this is special: love. Love for your people, love for your customers, love for your work. So as an entrepreneur, a manager, or anyone building a team, this episode will show you how love works in practice. How does that affect your standards, your accountability, your customer experiences, and how do you make everyone rave about the blessing of working with you? So before we jump into the interview, is it okay if I spoil you just a little bit? First, though, I'd like to ask a favor. If you've been enjoying the Swedish Wealth Institute podcast, please do what thousands of other people all over the world already have done. Hit the follow or subscribe button so you don't miss any of the coming episodes. Now, as a thank you for listening, I want to give you 2 weeks free access to the Swedish Wealth Institute community. There you can connect with entrepreneurs from all over the world. You can get access to our exclusive Mastery Academy library with trainings from speakers like Dr. John Demartini, Jack Canfield, and more. You can claim your membership in the show notes in the link there. All right, ready to get started? Here is Steve Farber. How did this trickle down to the clients? What started happening?
So they put the same criteria on, let's look at what we do with and for our clients. So for example, it had been a long-standing policy at Trailer Bridge that when they're selling space on a barge, let's say to go to Puerto Rico, unless that barge was at least, I don't remember what the number was, 75 to 80% full,
right,
they would not sail.
Right. So if I'm booked and they're not filling their barge, now I have to sit and wait.
Exactly. You're sending a car to your family in Puerto Rico.
Right.
You put it on the barge. You're told it's going to arrive there at such and such a date. That date comes and goes. You call Trailer Bridge. Where's the car? Oh, it's still sitting in the harbor. Why? We haven't sold enough space yet. Right. So, and
yeah, why is that my problem?
Exactly.
Send me my car. Yeah.
Why was that the policy? Well, because unless they had that certain percentage, let's call it 75% for the sake of discussion, unless it was 75% full, they would lose money on that shipment.
Yeah. It wasn't a profitable journey.
Right. And we're not in the business to lose money. Okay. So with Mitch's new direction, they asked a really simple question. If we really loved our customers and it was only 60% full on the date that we're supposed to sail, if we really loved our customers, what would we do?
Yeah.
Pretty obvious, right?
Well, I'm thinking FedEx right now. That's what I'm hearing, right? No matter what, like the story of the guy up in the mountains and hires a helicopter to deliver this little package.
Yeah, exactly.
And gets, oh my God, you're a hero. You delivered on our promise.
Exactly. So there was a pretty obvious answer. We would sail no matter what. We sail, and that's what they started doing. And it was a bit of a gulp factor at first because that meant they lost money on that shipment. But that and many, many, many other things began to add up. And pretty soon, their customer satisfaction scores started to go up. People started to talk about them. The repeat business happened. And fast forward.
And of course, if you don't have to discount as heavily, you don't have to be as full up on your barges to be profitable on your trip either.
Right, that's right. But now they're always 95 to 100% full. Always. They had a run of 3 years within a couple of years after Mitch started there, where they were more profitable as a company than in 3 years than the previous 25 years of the company combined.
Right.
They've been voted best place to work many times in Jacksonville and in their industry. And
Nice.
it's a remarkable story. And if you ask Mitch, which you're welcome to do, because he talks about it all the time, he will tell you it's because he rebuilt. Actually, he won't. He won't tell you that he did it. He'll tell you that they did it. They built a culture based on love. And now, by the way, their best recruiters for new talent in the company are
Their employees.
of course, their employees. So they spend no money on recruiters anymore.
Right.
They don't have to convince anybody to work there.
No, people want to come and work to work with their friends. So
factored into all this, Daniel, there's one other thing that we should at least touch on. There is such a thing as tough love.
Yep.
Right? So it's not about being, what's the word? Being honest is really important. And if I need to give, to correct somebody's behavior, if I need to give somebody some tough feedback, then I need to do it. And I can still do it with kindness.
Yeah.
But I can be tough. And when you create an environment that, like we're describing here, it's a very high expectation environment. And if people don't live up to those expectations, there's feedback that needs to happen. And sometimes you need to fire people.
Yeah.
And that can still be done with kindness. And that's still an act of love. Because just like what you talked about, there's sometimes a dilemma between two different values. There's also a potential conflict or dilemma between love for the enterprise and love for the people that work there. And, as an owner, for example, well, for anybody, if it's really about extreme ownership, then part of it is understanding that all of us has a fiduciary responsibility to this place.
Yeah.
And I need to oftentimes prioritize that. And if a person is not a good fit and they're damaging the company in some way, then it's an act of love to say goodbye to that person.
Well, and in our case, we give our employees a profit share of the company's profits. So if someone is not pulling their weight, that's now hurting not only everyone else's experience at the company, but actually what they're going to be compensated for.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
One of the things that I was always impressed me is you say that love is important in business. Explain that. What does that mean?
So we're hitting that right out of the gate, huh?
Yeah. We're going deep in right away.
Yeah, that's great, man, because that is really the foundation of all the work that I do. And just to give you a little context, because it's not a 1 or 2 word answer, I've been doing this work of leadership development with, in the corporate world primarily for 35 years. And what that has given me the opportunity to do is learn a tremendous amount from not only from my mentors, but also from my clients over the years. And I've always been fascinated with, what is it that makes for a really exceptional, extraordinary leader? In other words, a person who has the ability to engage people to such a level that they bring themselves fully to their work and do their best possible work and help each other to do that, which is, the question that anybody who's in this
that's the
field
dream of every leader, right?
Yeah,
that
that's
people
right.
are engaged and do what they want to. They do because they want to, and they're passionate.
Exactly. Yeah. So people do it exactly. They do great stuff because they want to, not because they have to. Yeah. They engage not because they look at the org chart and they see that you're their boss and you sign their paychecks, but because they want to throw themselves into it. They want to commit versus simply comply. So we all ask that question. What does it take to do that? And for me, the very clear conclusion is fundamentally at its core, it comes down to love. The greatest leaders that I've met in my 3.5 decades are the ones who cultivate a love for the people that they work with, the clients that do work for, the technology or the product or the service that they offer, the mission that they stand for. It's a connection of the heart. And of course, where that all starts is it's a very personal thing. Yeah. If I don't love all of the above, then my only alternative is to fake it. And right. People have a pretty good bullshit meter. They know when I'm faking it. So this is about true, authentic connection, personal connection between you and the work you do and the people you do it with.
Right. Let's dive in deeper into that. What does it mean to truly love your clients or love your business?
Yeah. It's a very it's a loaded word, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I've always been reluctant to define it. Mm-hmm. And the reason is this. I think of it this way. If my wife comes to me and she says, "Honey, do you love me?" And I say to her, "Define love." That's not
You're going to be in trouble. That's sleeping on the couch right there.
It's not going to go very well for me. So it's not about defining it. It's about identifying it in the experience. So we know when we love something and when we don't.
Yeah.
We don't really question it. So the question really becomes, how do I create that kind of experience in myself and others? And another way to frame that question up, which is really what all my work has been about, and some variation on this theme, is what should love look like in the way that we do business? Or another way of asking it is, what do we need to do as a business, as an enterprise, to create the experience that our customers will love us, not just be okay with us, not just be satisfied with us, but really love doing business with us? And that is a very high level question.
Yeah.
And it demands a raising of our standards and a raising of the expectations that we have in how we approach business. So, for example, we have customer satisfaction is the word that was kind of the word of the day for, I don't know, decades. That we want our customers, to be satisfied with us, and that's just not good enough. But if you ask your team, what do we need to do to improve our customer satisfaction scores, let's say?
Right.
Well, that's a good question. It's not a damaging question. It's only going to lead to improvement, I would suggest. But if you take the same idea and you just change the expectation to what do we need to do for our customers to love us, it changes the game.
You're thinking in a different level right there.
Totally different level. So this is really about raising the quality of the work that we do, raising the impact that we have on the world around us. Yeah. And by the way, that same question applies internally.
The founder manager, then how do I get the employees on board? And then how do we get the clients on board?
Okay, great.
So if we start as the founder manager, like for me, it's easy. I am truly passionate about my business. So that comes naturally. But what if you started a business because, maybe you had a job you didn't want, you start a business to kind of create your freedom. And so the business is more a vehicle of freedom more than a vehicle of passion.
Sure.
How do I start to love something that, was created for a different reason?
Yes, great question. So let me frame it up, put it in the right context, okay? Yeah. So the argument is simply this. Whether you started your business as a passion project or you started it as a way to get more freedom, it doesn't matter what the reason was. That business is not going to succeed unless your customers or clients, or whatever terminology you use, love what you're doing for them.
Yep.
And I think as as decent, not even great, but decent business people, we should all see how obvious that is.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. The question becomes, how do you create that? How do you create that experience that customers are going to love in a meaningful and sustainable way over time, in a truly authentic, genuine way? Well, you have to back it up one step. And that is, I need to create, as a business person, a culture or an environment that people love working in internally. Yeah. If I don't love working here, it's very difficult for me to create that experience for a customer.
For others, yeah.
Now I got to back it up one more step. As the founder, as a leader, as the owner, as the entrepreneur of that company, I can't create that kind of environment that people love working there unless what? Unless I have it myself first.
Yeah.
Right? Because then it comes all the way back.
You cannot give what you don't.
Comes back to the authenticity thing, right? So it doesn't matter if I started the business as a passion project or not. I have to find something in this venture that I love. And maybe it's, maybe I chose a field because I did the market research and I found that there was a great, niche. There was a great opportunity that I could really exploit as a business person. And that's why I'm doing business, not because I had this passion for X because
I see an opportunity. Let's go take it.
I see an opportunity. Let's go take it as a decent entrepreneur would do. Okay. Nonetheless, now that I've gone in that direction, I have to personalize it. Yeah. So what is it about this enterprise that I love? Maybe it's the people that I'm working with. Maybe it's the challenge of coming up with a creative marketing approach. Maybe it's the freedom that it gives me in my overall life. It doesn't matter, but I have to find it, and then it becomes a practice of operationalizing that in the way that I work. How do I bring that out so that it's a tangible,
so I don't have to love
feel?
Everything. I have to find what I love about it.
Yeah. You don't have to love everything.
Sure. I love my company. I do not love doing the bookkeeping of receipts. That's...
Yes. Yeah. So here's the thing. There are going to be things, sometimes many things that I have to do that I don't love at all in order to do the work that I love.
Yeah.
And there's a technical term for that. It's called being an adult.
Yeah. Fair.
Right? So yeah, it's not about...
I'm glad you used the technical term in case we have problems understanding it. Yeah.
Look it up. So it is a very common sense. It's really not particularly complex.
Yeah.
But it is very challenging because it requires, for one thing, a good level of introspection. And it's not enough to say, I'm doing this business because of the great market opportunity. This is an opportunity to say, okay, but why is it really important? Why is it important to me? And what impact are we going to have? And how do I want to affect and change the lives of the people that work with me, for me, around me, in partnership or as employees, depending on what the scope of your business is. It's not a particularly sexy business, right? It's a shipping company,
right?
Shipping logistics company. It's called Trailer Bridge. They're in Jacksonville, Florida. And the brief history on the company is it's been around now for 30 some years, but its history was let's just say great. It was, and I'm not speaking out of school here because I think others have described it, including them, in this way. This
is why they called you.
It was a toxic waste dump of a company. I mean, it was terrible. They burned through 4 CEOs in 3 years. They were losing money hand over fist. They went bankrupt and emerged from bankruptcy. And the board tapped one of the guys who was on the senior team. His name was Mitch Luciano. They tapped Mitch to say, we want you to be the next CEO. And he said, no.
Well, considering the backdrop, I kind of see why he wasn't excited. Yes.
Right. He said no. Then one of his buddies, another senior manager, said, look, if you don't do this, Mitch, they're going to put some other schmuck in there and we're back to square one. So please do it. So he said, okay, I'll do it. But I won't take the title of CEO. You can call me president and I'll earn the CEO title. And then So here's where I'm going with this. The caveat is, he said to the board, but you've got to let me do this my way because I'm a love guy. No, he didn't say those words, but that's
This is you was inserting it. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, that's my color commentary, because Mitch was a love guy. So he had read all of my books, and by the way,
cool.
I heard this story after the fact.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was in there rolling my sleeves up helping Mitch do this. He did all this based on.
He'd read the books, and that was his management theory now, and he put it into play.
And fundamentally, it came down to, I want to create an environment that customers love doing business with, which was radical because they didn't.
Right.
I mean, this was the reason they went bankrupt. Their service was so bad, they had to keep discounting their service, which was primarily, by the way, shipping barges full of containers of stuff, mostly from the mainland to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, places like that.
Right. Point A to point B, and they were not the best at it.
They were terrible at it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what that's what their customers said, and that's what the bottom line said. So they had to keep discounting in order to stay in business. And anyway, so he said, we want our customers to love doing business with us. That's a radical shift. And he understood that we need to create a place that people love coming to work. Also, a radical thought at that time, because it was not. Their turnover was terrible.
Well,
so
I mean, it's got to be awful to, have angry clients calling all day and knowing that you're delivering a crappy service and you're not getting paid well enough for it to be worth it. Yeah.
Exactly. So he understood that those things are interconnected. The environment, the people, the customer experience, and the bottom line. So the question he asked was, what do I need to do around here to make this a place that people will love working in? And what he meant by that is he knew that he had to foster relationships inside the company, create an environment where people would talk to each other, get to know each other, rely on each other, brainstorm together, figure things out together, right? So the first thing he did was he looked at the actual physical environment, because in this case, most of the people were in their corporate office in Jacksonville. Then, of course, they had people in the field and people in other locations.
Right, they had the barges, and
but that was the starting place. That's where he and the management team were located as well. So he looked around the environment, and here's what he knew was, because he'd been working there for a while already, everybody wore name tags. At the time, there were like 120 people in the office. They've grown quite a bit since then. Not to give away the punchline, but they have. And they all wore name tags.
Right.
And he said, why are we wearing name tags? We're 120 people. We should know each other, right? So the first thing he did was he banished the name tags. No more name tags, which meant that people had to learn each other's names, including, by the way, himself.
Yeah.
Right? So he banished the name tags. Then this was Cubicle City, and there were floor-to-ceiling dividers between the cubicles.
Right.
People couldn't see each other.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't talk to each other. They'd send an email.
Right. You basically sat in a little box without windows and had no contact with other human beings.
That's right. That's right. So he lowered the divider so people could actually, look over and talk to each other. And then he went to the break room. He put in a foosball table, ping pong table, like that Silicon Valley stuff that they got.
Right.
They got, kind of famous for. Put in a popcorn machine, so people would start to, they'd hang out over there, get to talk to each other. And then he started bringing in a food truck every Thursday.
Right.
And the idea was, we'll buy you lunch, but now you're going to have lunch together one day.
Right. Now, but you're going to eat it here. Yeah.
You're going to eat it here with each other, and you're going to, and pretty soon relationships started to form. And then he would have these town halls where any question was acceptable. Every idea was considered, certainly not implemented, but every idea was considered.
The idea was welcome. The implementation would be considered.
And he did whatever he could to be that, so-called servant leader. So, for example, one of the requests from the team was about a certain kind of, they wanted an ice machine in the break room, but there was a particular kind of ice machine that they really wanted. And he said, okay, yeah, we could do that. That's cool. He vetoed the idea of beer pong Fridays because he thought that was probably not a good idea,
Yeah.
to foster
It's one thing
collective
to be
drinking.
friends. It's one thing to have a frat. Yeah.
That's exactly friendship, not a fraternity. So again, just to point out, he didn't say yes to everything, but an ice machine, sure, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
And then he said, okay, let's get the ice machine, figuring he's the president. He says, let's get an ice machine. Somebody will get an ice machine. Nobody got the ice machine.
Right.
And so a couple of weeks go by and he looks around and goes, where's the ice machine? And so he said, well, I guess I've got to order it. So he made a promise, he made a commitment. So he did a little research, found the right one and ordered it, right? He's got nothing else to do.
Yeah, well, of course, it's just 120 people in the office. He can't have much management.
Oh, no responsibilities at all. But just analyze that for a second. The symbolic nature of every example that I just gave you so far, everything from getting rid of the name tags to the cubicles and all that, not only does it have an actual effect on the way people interact, but it has a symbolic effect. Yeah. And it's showing that I'm taking this seriously. I'm not just saying I want to create a great place.
And it was into minor detail. Well, what looks on the surface like tiny details, no name tags.
Yes.
What CEO goes into that little detail?
That's right.
A question I think a lot of entrepreneurs would have is, if I'm fostering that kind of a camaraderie, what is the risk that they'll be talking around the water cooler instead of actually getting things done? How do I make sure they're friends and happy, but still care about my business?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it reveals, the question reveals an underlying bias that we have about all of this.
Yeah.
Which is to say that if we create an environment that people love working in, what that means is they'll become a bunch of slackers. Because work is not about that. Work is about getting shit done. And here's the thing, it is about getting things done. And it is about raising the expectations. So this is not about creating an environment where everybody's, happy all the time and people walk around with big, mindless, goofy grins on their faces and hang out at the proverbial water cooler and play foosball all day long. And nobody ever does anything and nobody ever argues. And that sounds nauseating to me. That's not what happens. If you create an environment that people love being there, the expectations and the standards go up. They hold each other to a higher level of accountability because this place is important.
Yeah.
And what we do here is important. So it doesn't take the boss to say, hey, get back to work. They keep each other motivated.
Yeah, they do that together.
Of course.
I mean, that's one of our core values in our company is we get 1% better every day. So my team is finding ways to implement AI or automations so that we don't have to work, so that we can get more done with less time.
Yeah.
Which means I have to hire less people to scale,
right.
Which, would be counterintuitive, many would think, for an employee to find ways to make themselves obsolete.
Yeah, that's right. Well, because they're not, I mean, from what you just said, they're not making themselves obsolete. They're making the environment more efficient.
Yeah.
So they can put their energies into the things that they're really good at and really passionate about.
Exactly.
And maybe it means you don't have to hire as many people. But
exactly.
I'm already here.
They would never become obsolete because they're the ones who have the capability to do it. But they might make the next potential hire obsolete because we automated it.
Sure. Yeah. And that's nothing wrong with that. It's about, but it's exciting, right? It turns them on. It's because they're being more creative and they're seeing the impact of their work, not only on themselves, but on their colleagues and as a team and as a company. People love to be a part of something great.
I think everyone can kind of make sense of that part, especially as an entrepreneur. I mean, I should be able to find something I'm passionate within my business. But if we then take it to the employee side, I'm building my dream. I'm building my vision. They are building my vision. how do I make it or help them find their love in it? Or if I'm an employee in someone else's company, how can I find that same love and passion as the founder?
Yeah, that's right. And maybe you can't. I mean, I don't know. So I want to qualify that,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Because otherwise
that-
your books just kind of lost a little bit of their
That's right.
credibility.
Oh, you
They're like,
can't.
no, sorry, it's not
Yeah.
going to work.
No,
This whole thing is pointless. They need to, but they can't. So you're
that's right. And screw them. It doesn't matter what they. No, what I'm saying is they may not have the same level of passion and conviction for the business that you do. Right. However, you have a great opportunity as somebody with influence and even control over the enterprise to create that environment that people really love being a part of. So I may not have a passion for the business in the same way that you do, but I could still love coming to work. I could still love coming to work. I could still love working with the people that I work with. And that tends to happen when I go to a place that supports me in the work that they've hired me to do, gives me an opportunity to grow and expand my own capability, honors, respects, and is grateful for the work that I do every day.
right.
Assuming that I do.
Right. So how would a organization institutionalize that is everyone does feel seen and supported?
Yeah, and institutionalizing is the operative word here. And I've used this word once already. I'll come back to it. The word that I like is operationalize, because this needs to be, if you're trying to create an environment that people love working in, then it has implications for everything that you do and the way that you do it.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I put everything through this love filter, what should love look like?
Yeah.
Then I need to look at the kind of people that I'm hiring, the way that I hire them, the expectations that I have of them, the resources that I provide to them. Are these things that people are going to love? It even has implications for compensation, benefits, physical environment, if there is one. It's not a virtual organization. The way meetings are run, the way communication is disseminated through the organization. If I'm constantly asking, does this really serve the people that work here? Then there are thousands of ways to do that. So it's not a simple checklist, do X, Y, Z, and people will love the work. It's that one filter that says, okay, what should we do then?
So when building a company, let's say from the start now, if you're just setting up a business and you're hiring your first employees, what are some common mistakes that people will make that will build the wrong environment that doesn't get us to this right place?
I think the biggest mistake is they put no thought into what kind of culture they want to create. It's pretty rare, in my experience, if I'm talking to a early stage entrepreneur and I ask them about their business, I'm going to hear about the technology. I'm going to hear about the market. I'm going to hear about maybe even about their exit strategy, depending on the kind of entrepreneur they are. I'm going to hear about, their funding efforts. And rarely will I hear, let me tell you what kind of culture we're creating.
Right.
What it feels like to work here. So I think the biggest mistake is they don't put any attention on culture at all. It's not intentional. But here's the rub. There's always a culture.
Yeah, exactly. No matter what you do.
No matter what you do, there is a culture. The question is it the kind of culture that you want?
Yeah.
Is it the culture,
the
kind of culture that's going to support what you're trying to do as a business? And so, pretty soon, the company, let's say it's been a great start. It blows up. It's expanding. You're getting great success with the marketplace and funding and all that. And then you look around one day and you go like, what are we doing here? I mean, what is it? What are the habits that we've created and the kind of the rituals that have sprung up? Because it's all going to happen, right? And then it's like, oh, this is not good. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's an accidental, wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But more often than not, it's like, oh my gosh, this is not going to work in our growth. And then it's a lot harder to start to try to turn the
do what Mitch had to do Takes a
Right.
little more effort. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, we've created we call it our internal brand book that guides you through like what we do, what is our values, why do we do what we do, what are our goals, everything. And that's the first thing we give to a new employee to read. And we have team meetings every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, that's what we're referencing. Like, are we living these values? Are we, is this what we're doing? And we use the language from it. Like, we get 1% better every day. We make sure that's a part of our vocabulary as we speak.
So let me ask you, when you ask that question, is this what we're doing? Which, by the way, is exactly the right question. So I've been talking about this in the context of love, but you can apply this to any value or operating principle. So 1% better every day looks great on a poster.
Yeah.
But the question, are we doing it, is exactly the right question. So what do you do if the question is, are we doing that? And the answer is no.
Right. Well, I mean, so far that has not been a problem because things are happening in every department every day. But what we do a lot to foster that, to make sure that it is happening. So it both comes as a top down, like whenever we run an event, we're there analyzing. But the coolest thing was, from the event, seeing literally during the event, the team start getting in there and breaking down the data and going like, wait a sec, here are things we could have done better, like in real time, which was really, really cool. But, we talk about that on every Tuesday meeting. And then on every other Wednesday, we have an internal team training where we spend an hour together. And then about once a month or every other month, we do a 3-hour, we call it our WOW workshop, where we're trying to figure out ways to create more wow experiences for our clients. And sometimes it's just an overall like, all right, any idea is welcome. And sometimes we'll go, all right, today we're talking about this part of the business. This is what we want to grow.
That's
And
fantastic.
so I think, having those things come up.
There's a lot there to unravel, because there's some really important principles you just brought up. Let me start with the wow experience. So when a participant in one of your summits or a client says, "Wow, guys, wow, ... I complete that sentence."
Yeah,
Like
so
what?
they would say like, wow, what amazing speakers you had, or wow, what an experience this event was, and wow,
in essence, what are they saying? I love this.
Exactly.
Wow, I love that. That's the wow factor that you want. You're not going like, wow, that sucked. That's not the wow.
Well, yeah, exactly. There's bad wow.
Yeah,
That's what we call an unwow. Sometimes we'll go, how do we get rid of all the unwows?
yeah, that's right. So that's the love thing, right? Now you may not be calling it that, but that is in essence what it is. So the other thing there is when you do your debrief after an event, I'm going to make an educated guess.
Go for it.
That you're telling stories about what went well and who did what to make that happen, right?
Yes, and I'm also asking them for their stories and their experiences in it.
So that's a really important principle. It's setting the expectation, being clear as to what that means in the way that we work. And then when people do it, to recognize it by calling it out and telling the story. And even better, well, I'm going to say in tangent with it, to encourage them to do the same and recognize that in each other. Well, here's what Daniel did, and here's what my team did, and here's what my friend did to help me, and I got behind the 8 ball on something, and I got all of those stories reinforce that this is not just words on a poster board.
Yeah. No, exactly. So,
and the sum total of all of that, when you do that consistently with all of your values, and those values are important to people, then the sum total equals, I love this place.
We had to actually go back and revise it because we realized that some of them in reality were conflicting. So we had
with each other?
Yeah, with each other. So we had one that was extreme ownership and another that is, family comes first, which is like, we want you to take care of your life, but, and then we also have extreme ownership. And there are situations where it's like, well, we have an event starting tomorrow. These things have to be done, but I have a home crisis. Now,
Yes.
which of these values all of a sudden became the most important? Because they both say this is number one. And we had to sit down with the team and really go, well, what is it we actually live? How do you handle a situation like this?
So how did you handle it? How do you handle it?
Well, basically, we said that extreme ownership comes first, but that doesn't mean that you have to say to your family, like, I can't take care of you. But it does mean that you can't just leave the job undone. You have to either do it and then deal with your crisis, or you have to do a proper handoff and say, look, I need to go, but this has to be done by tomorrow. Can you do it for me? Because I do have to go.
So this is another great principle that you're bringing up. Values, what's the word? They're organic.
Yeah.
And it is not unusual for two very important values to at times come into conflict with each other.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that we throw one out for the other. It should engender exactly the kind of conversation that you're talking about here. Yeah. What do we do when this happens?
Yeah. How do we deal with the problem?
Right. And it's a problem of it's a values level problem. And the reason people want to deal with that problem is because those values are important to them. So years ago, this was like in the 90s, I was working with a senior executive team of a company that was in the medical devices industry. And this was a team that for the most part had worked together for quite some time. So they knew each other really well. A couple of new members of the team, but many of them worked together for, 10 years or something.
Right.
And we did a values process that gave them the opportunity to articulate what values were important to them individually, and which is a really important part of the conversation to have. And that's a whole other discussion. But if I can look at our company values and see my personal connection to it, that's super important. So we did an exercise, and one of the values that emerged was family. And what was so interesting about it was none of them knew that about the others, that family was their most important value.
Right.
So they had been operating under a myth that work came first over everything.
But
so when
everyone
they had
in
this
the company
discussion,
felt family.
when they had this discussion, it was like they were looking at each other with like new eyes saying, you mean when I had to miss that PTA meeting, or that my kid made the soccer championship and I missed it because I thought that you guys expected me to be at work? They go like, no, I would have covered for you because because we know how important that is. I mean, it's mind-boggling how simple it is, but it's a cautionary tale, because unless you facilitate that kind of conversation, you don't discover those solutions. And then what happens? People get frustrated, they get despondent, they get depressed, they get pissed off because they feel like they're sacrificing so much for this
they
place.
keep missing their kids' football games,
Yeah.
and they're missing out. Yeah.
And not only did they not have to, but their colleagues want to help them make that happen.
Right.
And just like anything else, there are always going to be people, it's a very small minority of people in my experience that will try to game the situation, take advantage of it. But you should never lead to that expectation.
Right.
Because
don't punish everybody because there's a minority that shouldn't be fired anyway, maybe.
That's right. That's right. There's going to be that person that loves to hang out by the water cooler and not do any work. Yeah. So therefore, we're not doing any of this stuff. It's a terrible way to do it.
Yeah. All right. Let's do our rapid fire round. We have 5 questions that the team has prepared.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's find out.
Exactly. We'll see. All right. So what is a leadership myth that you'd retire?
The leadership is about position or title.
What is the biggest management challenge you have personally had?
Boy, having what we were just talking about, having to fire somebody that was not right for the enterprise.
What is a quote you think every manager should have in their back pocket?
Is it presumptuous to quote myself?
No, of course you should quote yourself.
Do what you love in the service of people who love what you do.
Oh, nice. I like that. All right. So how about this? What is a book that now you cannot name your own book
Okay.
that every manager should read?
The Leadership Challenge by Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner.
All right. So what is something you're really excited about for yourself in the next 12 months?
Well, what a great follow-up question to the previous one. I've got a new book coming out. It's called The Radical Promise. It's coming from Wiley in August. And it's really about what we've just been discussing about the congruence between actions and values. So the full title is The Radical Promise, Mastering the Art of Doing What You Say You Will Do. And it's a business parable, like my first 3 books are. In other words, it's written as a novel. So there's a story section and there's an application section. And what I'm particularly excited about and honored by is I have 2 co-authors in this book.
Oh, nice.
And they are Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner, the authors of the Leadership Challenge, who are my mentors.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's a full circle moment for me. Jim was the guy who hired me at the Tom Peters Company in 1994. And their work and their research has deeply informed mine over the years. So when they agreed to work on this book with me, it was like, I kind of couldn't believe it, but it turned out great.
Oh, that's amazing. Congratulations. And we definitely look forward to seeing that.
Thank you.
And speaking of ways to connect with you,
Yeah,
we like spoiling our listeners. So we've asked you to prepare something special for them. Do you have anything for them?
well, I will invite you to check out Daily Audio Message,
Right. We'll link to that in the show notes.
or you could find that on stevefarber.com as well. But it's a subscription. It's free, but it is, as the name suggests, a daily audio message from yours truly. And they're like a couple of minutes long. And I get more positive feedback on this thing than any kind of freebie or, content piece or anything that I've ever done in the past.
Yeah, I like it.
People really, really love it. So, try it out, subscribe to it. If it doesn't trip your trigger, just, unsubscribe and that'll be that. But it comes out Monday through Friday.
I like that. I'll definitely check it out for myself. And like I said, we'll add that to the show notes.
Excellent.
So, Steve, what is one thing you'd like people to take with them from this episode?
That love is not anathema to business. That, in fact, love is just damn good business. And if there's anything that I would ask you to do, like right now, is start with a really simple question, which is, why do I love my work? And you could change the context. Why do I love my work? Why do I love my team? And if the answer to that question, by the way, is don't, then try it this way. What do I love about it? Can you put your attention try even just for a couple of weeks on that and see what it does? See what it does to your frame of mind and see what it does to your level of engagement and activity and feeling of fulfillment throughout the day. Just try that experiment, see what happens.
Awesome. What a way to end it. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great conversation. And I love what you're doing there, man. It's really exciting.
Oh, we're having fun. It's good times.
Thank you so much for joining us in today's interview here with Steve Farber. It's time for my favorite segment of the show, where me and the Swedish Wealth Institute team have broken down the interview to give you some clear takeaways that you can implement right now in your life. So our goal is always to find the answer to the question, what is the difference that makes the difference? And today we found 5 big takeaways. So here we go. Number 1, love is not soft. It's a performance standard. Steve made a very powerful point. The best leaders don't get people to comply. They get people to commit. That only happens when there's real connection to the mission, to the work, to the clients, and most importantly, to the people. 2, customer satisfaction is a low bar. Build a business people love. Most companies ask, how do we improve customer satisfaction? Steve wants you to change that and ask, what would make our customers love us? That question alone raises your standards, creativity, and in the end, your execution. Number 3, you can't create a culture people love working in if you don't love it first. So even if your business started as a freedom vehicle or a side hustle or something else, you gotta find what you love about it. What is it the challenge, the mission, the craft, the impact? Maybe it's the team. Maybe it's the clients. And then bring that energy into the way you operate every day, because you can't give away what you don't possess. Number 4, culture isn't what you say, it's what you operationalize. So values on a wall, that means nothing. What matters are your visible behaviors. So how you hire, how you run meetings, how you communicate, how you recognize people, what you will tolerate, and what you celebrate. Small symbolic actions, which prove that you mean it, compound into massive trust. 5, real love includes accountability. A culture people love doesn't mean lower standards, it means higher standards. Love in business includes tough feedback, protecting the team, and sometimes letting the wrong people go. The goal isn't nice, the goal is to build something great. Please implement these things in your life because it will have a huge impact. Now, before I let you go, I want to spoil you one last time. I want to give you a free ticket to our upcoming event, the Business Wealth Forum. It's the March 20th and 21st. It's in the North American time zone, and it is going to be absolutely amazing. We got world-class speakers like Les Brown, Nick Vujicic, Brian Tracy, Jack Canfield, Janet Atwood, Marcy Shimoff, and more. You will be learning how to build and scale your business so that you can live the life that you dream of. You can claim the link in the show notes, and of course, make sure you grab it now so we don't run out. Now, next episode is going to be really, really exciting. So before we go, please make sure you follow and subscribe so you don't miss that next episode. And of course, if you know someone who's building a company, a team, or just trying to learn more about leadership, please share this episode with them. And if you like this episode, please give us a 5-star review. It really helps us expand our reach and bring this show to more people, which in turn allows us to bring on more and more of these exciting people. Our next episode will be absolutely amazing. I am interviewing one of my good friends, Sharon Jessup, who held the Guinness World Record for most consecutive half marathons. She did this during COVID to raise awareness for rhinoceros preservation. And she is going to teach us the power of branding, the power of connecting, the power of preservation, and how small things that you do can change the world. And of course, how to get a world record. So if you want to learn all that, make sure you show up for the next episode. I'm Daniel Wood. This is the Swedish Wealth Institute Podcast, and thank you so much for joining us.
It was insane. And I was sore. I was hurting. And my legs were sore. I had this dull headache. And I just felt so sorry for myself. And if I was ever going to quit, it was going to be on day 2 of the 102 days. Only 100 days to go. And I kind of had this moment where I thought, what have you done, Sharon? What were you thinking? You can't do this. And then obviously, you know, I have a rhino tattooed on my wrist, and that is my why.